Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, April 2nd, 2017. This is episode 1377. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. When it comes to the big decision of choosing a mortgage lender, work with one that has your best interests in mind. Use Rocket Mortgage for a transparent, trustworthy home loan process that's completely online at quickenloans.com/techguy. Well, hey, how are you today? Good to see you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk about computers and the internet and home theater and digital photography and smartphones and smartwatches and virtual reality and augmented reality and self-driving cars and all the wonders of the modern age. Biggest wonder is why they never seem to work right. That's what I'm wondering. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number if you have that question. That's mostly what Leo, my thing's not working. I lost the thing. It's over. It's not. How do I get that thing? 8888 Ask Leo. But you could call with, recommendations or comments too. 888-827-5536. That's toll free anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. But outside of North America, you can still call us. Just use Skype, okay, to that phone number. There's a website, too, so you don't have to write anything down. I want to emphasize that because I think a lot of people are listening as they drive, and I don't want you taking your hands off the wheel or your eyes off the road. Just remember this, techguylabs.com. Everything will be provided for you there, techguylabs.com. In fact, my scribe is writing for us as we speak. James DeRuvo's taking notes, writing everything down, putting it up on the website. We also put, after the show, we put audio and video. I don't know why you'd want video, but you can watch the video. It's exciting. Nothing more exciting watching a guy talk on the radio. You can also make comments if you want, and all that's free. There's no sign up. We ask that you log in to do comments, but you can use your Google or your Twitter or your Facebook account to do that. Just so that's to cut the spam back. TechGuyLabs.com. Really, when it comes to high-end smartphones in this country, there really are two brands. There's Apple and there's Samsung, right? A lot of us, especially those of us who take pride in being free-thinking geeks, might have other companies' smartphones, Android phones from Google or LG or HTC. But really, for mainstream phone buyers who aren't, reading the reviews and, listening obsessively to this show, it's Samsung and Apple. Apple will release its next generation iPhone probably this fall, and it probably will be an important one because, well, it's a landmark. It's the 10th anniversary iPhone. And so, there's lots of rumors. The rumor mill's going crazy about what but we don't, there's no really way to know what Apple's going to do in September. That's too far off. At some point in the next month or so, they'll start making the thing. They literally have to start months early to supply the demand. And even then, as you know, if you want to be the first on your block to have a new iPhone, you've got to really get up at midnight and pound on the website to get in line. Samsung, not quite the rush. Samsung will announce probably in the fall the successor to its world-famous exploding phone. That's mean to me. Poor Samsung. They just want to leave that in the rearview mirror. The Note 7. But the Note is a great phone platform, very popular, and a lot of people are waiting for that. I still hear from people all the time. I want that stylus. I want that big screen. So there'll be a Note 8. Samsung's already said this. And they've also said we are going to be very careful about the battery. So in all likelihood, the Note 8 will be the least likely to explode in this year's smartphone yearbook. We loved the Note 7, but the Note 8 is the least likely to explode. They did announce on Wednesday, though, they did announce the new S8 and S8 Plus. And I think these are the harbingers of what's to come in general from smartphones and from tablets and to some degree computers as well. This so-called bezel-less design. You know, in order to have a screen, in the past you had a lot of electronics all around the screen to control it, and so as a result, you have in almost every case a fairly hefty frame around the screen or bezel around the screen that holds all the stuff. But they've gotten better and better at making screens that can, I don't know what I guess the control circuitry is behind the screen, or they've also better material science so they can make bigger screens. They also have figured out ways to curve the screens. So Samsung, in fact, they started that with the S6, right, with the edge where they bent the screen around the left and right edge. So little bezel that they're virtually zero bezel, right? Just screen. They call it the infinity screen now. They've done the same with the top and bottom frame. The bezel's shrunk there. And in order to do that, Samsung had to do what many think Apple will have to do, which is eliminate the physical home button. So the new Galaxy S8, which, by the way, you could pre-order now from your local phone carrier. All of them are offering it. And if you pre-order it soon, you'll be able to get it in 3 weeks, April 20th. Or 21st, it'll start shipping. That phone unlike previous Samsung phones, has no home button. And we think Apple's going to do exactly the same thing. Tiny bezels and no home button, because that takes a big part of the bottom of the frame. So what will they have instead? Well, most Android phones, including Google's Pixels, which are excellent Android phones, haven't had a physical button in ages. They have a on-screen capacitive, touch button, touch control at the and the good thing about that, which I thought was a bad thing at first, I admit, is that when you rotate the phone, it can reposition, so it's always at the bottom center. I at first thought that's terrible. The nice thing about a physical button, you always know exactly where it is. There's never any question. Where's the home button? It's right there. It's always there. It's physically there. You can even see it. But over time, I've gotten used to the idea that the home button is a virtual button at the center bottom of the screen, however it's oriented. And since we now, we can rotate our phones all the way around, that makes sense. So that's what Samsung's going to do, but, well, sort of. And again, I haven't touched it yet, so I'm going off of my colleagues who were in New York on Wednesday and touched it. It sounds like there still is a physical button. It's just under the screen, and you have to press the screen a little harder to click it. I hope that's not true. That's really dopey if they do that. The other, it should just be a control on the screen, like an icon, like a little button on the screen that you tap wherever it is. That's that's all it needs to be. I don't know why they'd have to have something you press hard on that screen. That's crazy. Crazy talk. But it also means the fingerprint reader can't be on the front of the phone anymore. And a lot of phones, the answer for that is to put it in kind of in the middle, kind of where your index finger would hit as you hold the phone. That's nice because it's good for lefties and righties. It's right in the middle there. So even if you hold the phone as I do it in your left hand, because I'm a lefty, your index finger just naturally hits that round circle where the fingerprint reader is. That's how it is on the Pixel and the LG and a lot of phones. No, Samsung had to do it differently. So they have a camera in the middle. As you look at it, on the left of the camera is a flash. On the right is the fingerprint reader. So you know what that means. And by the way, it's on the right, which means for lefties, it's poorly positioned. So for the first time I can remember, a phone that favors right-handed people. Hey, you're only 75% of the population. Stop being so cocky. We lefties have to live here too, But it also means I think half the time you're going to hit the camera and you're going to smudge it all up, or maybe the flash. So you got to get used to with a new Samsung phone. You're going to be cleaning the camera every time you want to take a picture. If otherwise, you'll have maybe you want that Vaseline on the lens effect. You'll get that. Software, I'm told, is very very clean. With one, Samsung always does this. In fact, your carrier does it too. They all have their own mail app and messages app. And now Samsung has to have its own voice assistant. It's called Bixby. And Bixby even has his own special button on the Samsung. So, but we haven't been able to play with Bixby because it won't be ready until they ship. So Will Bixby be better than Google or Siri? I don't know. $750 starting price. Not a cheap phone. Available in a couple of weeks, and I'll have a review for you when it comes out. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Your call's next. Somebody's asking if wrapping the screen around the edge makes it easier to crack. Well, yeah, it gives you more crack places to crack it. So you have to be. It's also a little weird to hold it because you kind of want to hold it like that. I had an S6 Edge and an S7 Edge. I really loved the phones. So. Yes, pre-order. You get the new VR gear, which they have to do because they're now going to a Type-C connector. It's no longer the USB micro. Thank goodness, the USB micro connector. That's terrible. The Type-C connector is a much better connector. Everything's going to use that, except Apple. There was a rumor that they might do a Type-C connector on the new iPhone. That would be interesting. That'd be a lot of Apple users screaming bloody murder if they do that. You kind of can do a clean install, actually, of Android. Sure you can. You can? Okay. Because Jason Howell was telling me that you have to physically push it. Good. All right. Yeah, I don't want a physical pusher. I don't even understand the point of that. If it's behind the screen, it just should be a screen tap. All right. Oh, I forgot to mention the reason I brought it up. The face recognition. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. By the way, I forgot to mention what I think is a very interesting feature of the new Galaxy S8, which is that you don't have to use the fingerprint. There are several ways to unlock the phone. There's, no unlock, just slide to unlock. There's the drawing the pattern, which Android's had for some time. There's the iris scanner, which was in the Note 7, which really was cool, but took a little while, and you have to position the phone properly, to read your irises. That's highly secure, though. Your iris is as unique as a fingerprint. So it's as good as the fingerprint scanner. But they also have face recognition. Now, we've seen this before in Android phones, but they say this is a much better face recognition. It certainly is a lot faster. The videos I've seen from the Samsung event, you just hold the phone up and it sees you. Windows has face recognition now, but Windows has for the Windows Hello face recognition to work, you have to have a special camera that senses depth. So it doesn't measure merely, the two-dimensional face, the distance apart of the eyes, the length of the nose, things like that, but it also measures the depth of the eyes, the length of the nose. It has more to measure, and also as a result, it can't be fooled by a flat paper picture of you. Well, it turns out they didn't do that on the S8, and it looks to be, and again, we'll have to wait until we get these in our hands, but it looks to be that the face recognition on that can be tricked by a photo. Even Samsung says this isn't the most secure way to lock the phone. It'd be better to use your fingerprint or your iris. Too bad, because a well-done face recognition is really the easiest way. You just look at your phone and it knows it's you. Wouldn't that be nice? I'm looking right now at Kim Schaffer, our call screener. And I recognize Kim.
You do?
Yes, you could be holding a picture of Kim up.
It's really Heather.
I can't tell. No, I know it's you. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. A little tired, but good.
Yeah, well, it's the weekend.
It's the weekend.
It's
Parties
appropriate.
happen.
Even if you didn't have parties, you're resting from a long week. I was in Vegas all week.
Oh, well, then you should be really tired.
I was exhausted yesterday. I am still recovering. Yeah. So, but you've been answering the phones and doing a bang-up job. I see the lines are full. Who should I start with?
Brian in Fairview, Tennessee. Password manager questions.
Good.
Although if we just used our face.
Yeah, that's the point, right? Wouldn't it be cool?
It would be cool.
if you could just look at the website and it would know it's you. I am not against this idea. It just has to be well done. Thank you, Kim.
Welcome.
And hello to Brian, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Brian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, first, let me apologize from the state of Tennessee for Representative Marsha Blackburn for introducing that bill.
Yeah, the bill that eliminated the privacy protections the FCC had implemented last year that prevent your internet service provider from selling your data to the highest bidder. And, of course, Congressmember Blackburn got a little bit of money from the telecommunications industry.
Yes, she did. And I even posted a picture of that, how much she got.
Yeah.
But, she's a reason I'm not a Republican anymore, but we won't go into politics. Will we?
Yeah, but, I have to say this is a case where you really wonder who's Congress, who are they looking out for? Are they looking out for the big companies, the ISPs, or are they looking out for consumers who clearly want privacy? Right?
Yeah. Mark my words, she's looking to be, well, we'll just stop there. She's trying to go up the ladder.
Yeah, well, who isn't?
Anyway.
I'm trying to go up the ladder. Someday, I hope to be the #1 tech guy. King of the tech guys.
Me,
President of the internet. That's what I want.
All right.
What can I do for you?
Well, I have spent the last 2 weeks trying. I'm reading a book called The Art of Invisibility. I want to, try to leave as little of fingerprint as I can. And again, I have nothing to hide, but it's nobody's business what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But, I know there's a limit to this. We've talked about this before.
Yep.
But I've spent the last 2 weeks hitting every password manager I can hit. And you know what? They're all a pain.
They're all a pain.
The one that's the least.
Here's the thing. This is an absolute truism that there is a scale, a balance between security and convenience. And the more security, the less convenient. That's just the way it is. It's less convenient to have to unlock your phone to use it than it is to just turn it on. But I think we all recognize that it's important to have security, so we're willing to give up a little bit of convenience, but just not a lot.
He suggested 2 of them in the book, and because they're open source and everybody could look at them and see, what's going on with the encryption. It made sense. However, when I went and looked at those 2, and I love open source, you know what? If I tried to show my mom, my grandma, my wife, my kids, well, maybe my kids will be okay, how to use this
I know.
and use it on a regular basis, they would hit me with something.
It's too much trouble. Yeah.
Yes.
So, by the way, that guy is Kevin Mitnick. Great guy. I know him very well. A friend for a long time, and ever since he got out of jail for being a hacker, and it's a good book. He recommends, I presume, KeyPass, which is the open source solution, and what's the other one? Pass.
No, the other one, oh gosh, you would ask that. I can't remember.
All right, that's fine.
It was open source, and the problem
He's
was...
right. Because when something's open source, at least you know that maybe you can't verify it, but others can look at how it's done and say yay or nay. Say that's done well, it's implemented properly, there's no back doors for the company or for the government. Those are the kinds of things you're looking for. However, as you point out, the open source solutions like KeyPass are less convenient. They may be more secure. In fact, they are more secure, but they're less convenient. One of the things that impairs security a little bit, but does make it much more convenient, is if the company that makes the password vault keeps it on their server. And that's so that you can, when you log in on your computer and you assign a password to a website, it's uploaded to their server and now immediately available on your portable devices, your phone, your laptop, your tablet. You want it to be available.
That's okay if I get to do the encryption key and they don't.
That's right.
And
that's right.
So,
that's exactly right. It's okay if it's better if
the book mentions something just 20 minutes from here. As a matter of fact, the Dixon County Sheriff's Department here in Tennessee are one of the ones that got hit
ransomware.
With ransomware.
Yeah.
And and everybody was telling them, you can't do this. Nobody can do this. FBI finally told them, well, you're going to have to, because it turns out what got encrypted was evidence. They had evidence.
And they didn't have a backup, huh? Well, they need a better IT guy there.
Anyway, I've settled on for now, unless you can suggest one better. And the reason I like it is because one of the big issues that I found with these password products is they work great on websites. But most people, for instance, and I don't do Facebook, but all these apps you have.
Yeah, they all have passwords.
They don't work with if you get this 24-string password on your website for something.
Well, what you have to do is copy and paste it. And that's a pain, but that's maybe better to do it. So which one did you end up, because we only have 30 seconds, which one did you end up using?
The one I ended up was LastPass.
Very good
they
choice.
Do that exactly. It pops up real quick. You hit one button, it pastes it, and you go to the other one and paste it in, and you're good to go.
That's the one I use as well. Lately, I'm a little more concerned about LastPass. There have been 3 significant flaws in LastPass that have been pointed out by Tavis Ormandy, who's a security researcher at Google. When we come back, let me mention some other equally useful password managers, and I'll talk a little bit about why you want to use this. Hey, I appreciate the call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Sierra One says, apparently there's some suspicion because the guy didn't have a Tennessee accent, that he wasn't from Tennessee. Now, I'm sure everybody in Tennessee saw it. Not everybody talks with a Tennessee accent, but Sierra One says, the idea that Tennessee actually uses evidence in any law enforcement activity is a giveaway. The caller's not from Tennessee. Miko, why are you talking to Tim Cook for an hour? What's the context there? How exciting. Yeah, I like that blinking. Isn't that good? That's their attempt to get around the hold up a picture. Yeah, I've had that. I am a USA customer also, and I've been using their face recognition. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Michael Cozy, our musical director, found an interesting little number there. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Let me talk a little bit about, I know we kind of hurried through that password manager discussion. I think I probably should talk a little bit about what these things are and why you want to use them. We didn't have to have passwords for the longest time, right? In fact, people my age, the only thing we ever had to memorize was our school locker combination, right? Maybe your bike combination. But then all of a sudden, along comes the internet, and every website wants you to log in. This is really authentication, to prove you are who you say you are. That's all this is about, right? Your bank needs you to prove who you are. So, I am Leo, so that you can access the funds. Your websites, same thing, so you can access the data. So everybody put up passwords, and all of a sudden we have to remember a lot of passwords. And at first, when we first started doing this, I did it, everybody did. You had one password. Maybe it was a good one, maybe not, but one you could remember, and you used it for everything. I confess, I used monkey, the word monkey, lowercase monkey, as my password for years. Not for my bank. Okay, I wasn't that dumb. But for like the, newspaper login and things like that. Because so what if somebody steals your login? Well, the problem with that is if you use the same password in a bunch of places, somebody figures out what your password is in one place. And by the way, monkey's a terrible password. Then he's got access to other places as well. Hackers, of course, use fairly sophisticated techniques to get passwords. They call them brute force attacks. And the very first brute force attack any hacker learns is what's called a dictionary attack. You go through all the words in the dictionary. So monkey's a terrible. He only has to go halfway through the dictionary before he's got my password. So then I said, well, let's call it monkey 123. But the problem is the hackers are pretty smart. And they figured out that, well, you try all the dictionary words. If that doesn't work, you try combinations of them, maybe add some numbers. Brute forcing still works. Really, it turns out that if you want to have an effective password, one that can't be attacked by a computer, because computers are pretty fast, then you need to make it long, at least 12 characters, more like 18 to 20 characters, and strong. It needs to be completely random, a combination of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and punctuation. If you do that, and truly random, if you do that, then even the best, fastest computers cannot break a password in a reasonable amount of time. There's just too big a universe to search through. Problem is, the best passwords are not memorable, and you need to remember them. So password vaults arose as a place to keep your password. Now, if you only need to log in at a computer at your desk in your home, and no one has access to your desk drawer, it's perfectly reasonable to write down all your passwords in a notebook. That's perfectly reasonable. You might want some help generating those passwords, and there are password generators online and so forth, but it's perfectly reasonable to do that. Of course, if somebody were to break into your home and get your password notebook, the game's over. And it's a little more complicated as we got mobile devices, and we wanted to have our passwords available to us on the road as well. What are you going to do? Carry that with you? Well, that's a bad idea. What if you lost it? So online password vaults were the solution to this, because you store your password in there. It's accessible to you at any time on all your devices. Password vaults have other nice features. For instance, they'll generate good, long, strong, random passwords automatically for you. They'll help you make sure that you have a different password for every website. And you only need to remember one password, and that's the password that unlocks the vault. You want to make that one a good one, but you can spend some time memorizing it. The problem with the password vault is it's kind of like that password notebook. If somebody were to be able to get it, they'd have all your passwords. So any good password vault company is going to encrypt that vault and lock it up tight. Ideally, lock it up tight with a key that only you know, probably tied to your password, right? That they don't know. They also, might want to store it in a central server on their website, because then you could use it anywhere you go, just kind of like that password notebook. And if it's locked up good and tight, I guess that's pretty safe. With that one risk that somebody might get it, then at their leisure, try to crack it. So there are a number of companies that do these password systems. Some of them have automatic fill-in features on Android devices and on your desktop computer. Nobody can do that on an iPhone because Apple doesn't let them. But on Android and Windows and Macintosh, they can fill in the password when you go to a website automatically. That's kind of convenient. Companies that do this include LastPass. Our caller, Brian, mentioned LastPass. That's the one I use. There's another one that's very good, too, called 1Password. 1Password will let you keep your password vault in a site of your choosing instead of on their servers, which might make it arguably more secure. Of course, then it's up to you to make sure nobody gets your password vault. But you can store it somewhere and, encrypt it heavily, and you probably are right there. There's Dashlane, very popular also. Keeper, I think, yeah, Keeper. These are all commercial products. RoboForm AI, that's been around for years. That was maybe the first one on Windows, going back a ways. There are a lot of these. There's dozens of them. And there are also open source ones. And they're pretty good, too. They're often less convenient. KeePass is the most popular, Keepass. I use LastPass because it's convenient. It has been in the past very secure. However, I'm a little worried now because this month, as I mentioned, there have been three, not one, not two, but three different serious exploits that involve the autofill capability of LastPass that were discovered by Tavis Ormady at Google. LastPass is fixing them as fast as they can, but they say right now, LastPass says, do not use the autofill feature. Turn that off. The safe way to use LastPass is to open the LastPass app and log in from there. This is a serious cause for concern. I trust the guy who did LastPass. He sold it to a company called LogMeIn, and so far has managed to keep control. Joe Segrist is his name, and as long as Joe's there, I feel like he knows what he's doing, and I can trust LastPass. But my confidence has been shaken a little bit. So but I think the real point to be made is even if these do introduce a new vector of attack for a bad guy, they're still so much better than anything else. They're so much better than a notebook in your drawer. They're so much better than you making up a password and they keep you from using the same password more than once. All of these things make them a more secure choice, even if there is this theoretical vulnerability with this centralized password database. So I'm going to continue to use LastPass, and I feel safe with it. But we'll keep an eye on it, absolutely. And if you're at all uncomfortable, I think 1Password is an excellent choice. They're all very similar in functionality. Dashlane is a very good choice. There are plenty of other good choices out there. But for now, I'm comfortable that LastPass is safe. But you might want to disable autofill until they fix this bug. And thank you. We've got to give a thank you to Tavis Ormady, who is perhaps at this point the most astute and effective security researcher in the world. He has been uncovering lots of problems of late. And very smart guy, works for Google in their security department, and thanks to him for giving the information to LastPass and letting them fix it before he publishes it. He's doing a bang-up job, and as long as you've got people like that really looking for the problems, I feel pretty good. I feel like we'll find those problems, we'll fix those problems, and we'll be safe because we'll find them. People like Tavis will find them before the bad guys do. I hope. I hope. 8888 asked Leo. I wanted to give that my patented password talk. I apologize if you heard it before, but I think it's so important. It's nowadays more than ever. Eventually, we'll get rid of passwords. It's a terrible system. But for now, if you're going to use passwords, you need a password manager, a password vault. And LastPass, OnePass, those are my two favorites. Very, very good. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I should say, do not use the password manager built into your browser. I should have said that. That is not safe. Lisa said she's going to arrange for lunch. Thank you. The password manager in your browser is essentially unlocked. It synchronizes, it has some disadvantages because it's only in the browser, so it doesn't help you with apps on mobile. If you log in to your account on your machine and open Google and look at the passwords, you can see them all. They're all in the clear. So anybody who has access to your Chrome, you do have an encryption password in Chrome that encrypts the passwords. Although it doesn't, on Firefox, I think you don't have to use an encryption password. So it's easy enough to misuse the browser password manager in a way that it compromises you. So I would prefer that you use LastPass. You can get Twit Live to play on Google Home. Try saying, at least last time I tried it, I could. Listen to Twit on TuneIn, or listen to Twit Live on TuneIn. Both Chrome and Firefox will encrypt. Firefox, I don't think encrypts by default. Chrome's decrypts as soon as you log into your account. So if somebody has access to your PC, all of your passwords are in the clear. Play Twit live stream. Okay. Okay. I think just turning off, what you really want to do with LastPass is turn off the autofill feature until such time as they fix this. That's the vector that Tavis has been messing with. His last tweet was, I was in the shower and I realized I found a new way to attack LastPass. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. This, Sunday's the day everybody goes to open houses, right? Are you going to go to an open house? I like to look at my neighbors' houses. Sometimes, though, you go in there and you say, hey, this is a nice house. And you know what? The price is good. We should buy this house. Wouldn't it be cool if at that point you could whip out your phone, go to a website, and give them the stuff, and they'd say, yeah, you're approved, and you could show that to the realtor. I'd like to make an offer right now. Wouldn't that be cool? All right, maybe that never happened to you, but it has happened to me. Unfortunately, we found a house. We loved the house. Price was right. We talked to the owners, talked to the realtor, said, all right, great. Yeah, we want to buy it. Went to the loan officer, and a month later, we're still sending him details. Can you send us some more? It was like, never again, because next time I'm going to Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans, the #1 lender in the country, certainly in terms of customer satisfaction. QuickenLoans.com/techguy. And #1 in my heart, because they have made a loan approval process that's entirely online. That's why they call it Rocket Mortgage, because it's fast. You do everything online. Literally, you could do that at the open house on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer. You don't have to have any paperwork. You submit any paperwork they need, like pay stubs or bank balances. You do that all, boom, boom, like with a touch of a finger. And then you even have little sliders. You can adjust the term of the loan, the rate of the loan, all of that stuff. Get it just right. Press submit, and literally minutes later, you get your approval. What? We waited a month. Minutes later. It's a good name, Rocket Mortgage. Don't waste time searching through stacks of paperwork. Don't have to put clothes on and go to the bank, hat in hand. When you're looking to buy a house or refi, now's a good time now. The rates are going to start going back up. Lift the burden of getting a home loan with Rocket Mortgage. Skip the bank, you skip the waiting, you go completely online. It's for people like us who we just want to get the job done. We're efficiency experts. QuickenLoans.com/techguy. Maybe, if you're the kind of person you like going to the bank and getting to know the banker and Going through, it's fun to go to the attic, go through all the papers, bring in the banker's box. So you like that. That's just not for you. This is for people who just want to get the job done. QuickenLoans.com/techguy, equal housing lender, of course. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. It's at QuickenLoans.com/techguy, and we thank him for making the Tech Guy podcast possible today. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Chat rooms informed me, and I did check my email, and yes, on Friday, LastPass did push out a fix to all of the problems that LastPass was experiencing. They wrote, a cross-functional response team quickly confirmed the report from Tavis Ormady and worked around the clock to produce a thoughtful, thorough fix that has been pushed to all affected browsers. So LastPass, which automatically updates, should be fixed. You should be using version 4.1.44 or higher, and then you won't have any problems. They say that thus far there have been no internal or external reports to indicate that the bug has been exploited. So there you go. Good news. And that's one of the reasons I like LastPass. Look, no software is perfect, but they do seem to respond quickly, and that's what you're looking for. A company that cares about security and wants to respond as quickly as possible. Paul on the line from Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Paul. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.
Hey, Leo. How's it going today?
It's going well. How are you?
Oh, good. I just was out in your neighborhood there a week ago and spent about a week in San Francisco on a training session, and
nice.
then stopped in Denver. My daughter lives in Denver, and we went out to Boulder, but the problem she has is she's in an apartment with lots of other Wi-Fi, and she's got an old Belkin Wi-Fi router from probably 7 or more years ago.
Oh, it's time for an update. Yeah. So does her Wi-Fi work poorly, or does it work at all?
It works, but it's slow. And for example, when I was connected to it, my iPhone didn't even update our location for a long time.
Yeah.
So, and I looked, and I couldn't count how many actual, other signals there were. But
there are dozens in an apartment building. There are dozens.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how big an apartment is it?
It's small. She's got a large living room, dining room, kitchen combined. It's maybe 25 feet long, and a bedroom and a bathroom.
Pretty much any router will work in those conditions. A newer router will certainly work better. And the best thing she can do at this point is to get a router that supports the 5G, 5 gigahertz band. The original Wi-Fi was 2.4 gigahertz, but all modern routers, not her old Belkin probably, but all modern routers support the newer 802.11 AC protocol and 5 gigahertz. And 5 gigahertz is better because it doesn't go through walls very well. So the interference from her neighbors won't affect her. Most modern devices will work at 5 gigahertz. If she has older computers, they may not. But they all fall back to 2.4. It's just that 2.4 is cluttered and is really noisy. So by going to 5 gigahertz, even if her neighbors have done that, because it doesn't go through walls very well, her neighbors aren't as loud. So she'll be able to almost always, using 5 gigahertz, survive. So any good router, the ones the Wirecutter recommends, which is probably more than adequate for a small apartment, is the Archer from TP. Link. It's the Archer C7. It's about $87.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yep.
Okay.
And the key is to make sure, and I presume she has devices that are no more than a couple of years old.
No, she's got an iPad and a new iPhone. So
yeah. So that will give you a much better result because it just doesn't go through walls very well. Now, if it were a bigger place, I'd say look at these new mesh routers. They're very expensive. Sure. But they're a great solution because they automatically move to a band that's less occupied. They do a lot of tuning, they all have some smarts built in to solve this problem. I mean, this has become a real problem with Wi-Fi. There's a lot of noise.
I use the Eros at home and love them.
Aren't the Eros great? But she doesn't need an Eero. That's $400 and it's just too small a space. So I think just a good. That TP link should be more than adequate, and just use the 5 gigahertz channel.
Yeah, that article that Jim Salter wrote was great, but unfortunately, apparently didn't have the updated Eros and didn't actually say much about them. So
No, Eero's a sponsor. I should give you a disclaimer. I love the Eeros. I use them. I set my mom up with Eeros. I've tried them all now. The Orbi, the Eeros, the Amplify from Ubiquity. At home right now, I'm using the Plume, and I've been very happy. That's the one Jim Salter liked. We're talking about an article that Jim wrote in Ars Technica about. The title of it was "Why Wi-Fi Sucks So Bad," and it really does. Yeah, if you read that article, you know what the problems are.
Yeah, exactly. Real quick, other question. Yesterday you were talking about HDMI extenders, and using the Ethernet and all for that.
Yeah.
Might be a silly question and totally off the wall, but would that work through a switch?
Oh, that's an interesting question. No, because it's not. You're not really using IP. You're using really it's a physical connection, point to point.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
The switch should get in the way because it's not network traffic. It's just it's a physical electrical connection.
So just a straight
you need a straight shoot. Yep.
Straight dedicated Ethernet.
Yep.
Okie doke. Super.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll put a link in that show notes again to Jim's great article. Jim Salter is a network engineer. He calls himself a mercenary sysadmin. And he really broke down why Wi-Fi is so terrible, especially now, because everybody's using it, and had some really good solutions. In a larger space, if you're, the Eeros, for instance, each, the base pack comes with 3 routers, each of them good for about 1,500 square feet. So if you had a 2,000 square foot house, getting a couple of those really works better than a router alone, or even a router with an extender. A lot of people get these extenders. They don't work as well as the new mesh systems. The problem with the mesh systems is they're expensive. And in an apartment, you don't really need that. Just a good router that can work at the 5 gigahertz bandwidth. Robert, Laguna Hills, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Robert.
Hi there. Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question. I just bought my Google Pixel XL.
Nice.
And I have been frustrated because I can't use it yet. They can't get my Fi service activated.
Oh.
And I'm thinking Google can fix anything with the computers.
Yeah, you'd think.
But they keep telling me they've escalated it to the second level stuff and everything, and they can't activate my account. So I've been a little frustrated there.
What do they give you any reason for this?
They have no idea why, and no estimate of how long it's going to take to fix it.
But you bought, excuse me, but you bought the phone so you could use their phone service.
Yeah, that's true.
Google, get it together.
Who could believe?
Well, and this is, this has always been the knock on Google, is that they're not a support company, because but my experience with Google Fi support has always been very good. So I'm kind of disappointed, especially if they haven't told you what's the problem. Do they want you to return the phone?
No, they said they're going to fix it. They don't know what the problem is, so
we'll fix it. I don't know what's wrong, but we'll fix it. How frustrating is that? Now I use a Google Pixel with Fi. And it's a great combination, especially if you travel. It's a really good system. So I want you to get it fixed. I don't want you to give up on it. Do they give you an ETA about when they'll fix it?
No idea. They won't give me an estimate.
I got a break. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Leo Laporte. That's terrible. Google, the tech guy. Google, get it together, Google. So I ran out of time.
Here's the question, though.
Yeah.
If I am currently with Verizon.
Okay.
If I take the phone down and activate it with Verizon, can I do that without them adding any junk on it?
Yes.
So when Google gets things going, I can just move the phone back to Google.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can go down to Verizon and say, I need a SIM, and put a SIM in that. Verizon even sells that phone. That when they sell it to you, then it has Verizon stuff. Although, at this point, if they put anything on there, you can erase it. It may be when you activate it with Verizon that it says, "Oh, great! Now we're going to download all the red apps and the NFL app and stuff." Some of them you might want. You can watch the NFL next year, but you don't have to disable them. They're not locked in there. You can just uninstall them. Yeah, that's a good fix. So how long has it been that you had the SIM?
It's been a week.
And they haven't fixed it in a week?
No. Have
they been kind of in touch with you saying we're working on it?
They never let me know anything. I check with them every 2 days, and they say we're working on it. We will let you know when we know.
That is really strange.
Who can believe it?
Yeah, well, we always joked about Google doing support with a Python script. But in order to do Fi, their own service, they staffed up. They got in my experience with tech support for Google's Wi-Fi solutions and for Fi has always been as good as anybody else. They must be baffled as to why it's not working.
They're friendly enough when I call them.
Are you porting? Oh, I know why. Are you porting your Verizon number over?
Well, I intend to as soon as they can get this.
That's what's going on.
Verizon number is not the problem. It is the account. They can't. You have to add a payment method.
Oh.
And the payment method won't work.
I get it. Okay. Huh. Interesting.
I hope they can fix it soon.
Yeah, I think you'll like it a lot. Now, the one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't use Verizon's cell towers. It uses Sprint, T-Mobile, and U.S. Cellular. So if you live in a part of the country where only Verizon works, you don't. But if you did, that would be a drawback.
Right. I looked and looks like I'll be fine here.
Yeah, I think AT&T's not AT&T. I think T-Mobile is very strong in the Southland, and if not, Sprint would cover it. I'm almost always on T-Mobile with my Fi. It's great, and boy, when you travel, it's such a good deal for me. For just the international use alone, it's worth it.
Exactly,
yeah.
And we do some cruising, so we're
perfect for that.
Too.
Yep. Robert, good to talk to you. I hope they get it fixed. If they don't by next week, call me back and we'll rag on them some more. That's terrible.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that rigmarole. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number, 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada outside that area. You can still reach us. Just use Skype or something like that to call out. Moving on to Peter in Brooklyn, New York. Hi, Peter.
How are you? How's everything?
Everything's great. How are you doing?
Good, sir. Good. I got a question. I'm looking for a monitor for my Mac Pro.
Yeah.
Basically, I want something with the color gamut of the LG Ultra Wide, but I want something a little bit bigger. Maybe between a 34 and a 43.
Wow.
Inch.
Wow.
Yeah. I looked online, Leo. They have a Samsung. It's a C791, I believe. CF791. And the resolution is 3440 by 1440.
That's a little low. That's a WQHD. That's a little low for a 34. But are you a photographer? You want accurate color is what you're saying.
Well, Leo, I use all the new stuff. I'm a technology junkie too. And
so you're a spec monster. You just want the right specs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I have the new MacBook Pros and the P3 color gamuts on them.
Yeah, no, you do, and that's where Apple really excels in the that Fuji monitor that they offer, the 5K monitor. Of course, Apple's own built-in monitors on their laptops all have that P3 color gamut. This is these curved monitors, these 34-inch curved, are gorgeous. I highly recommend them. I haven't used the Samsungs. I'm guessing that Dell, Samsung. Who else makes these? We have an Alienware. No, the Predator is from Ace. Is it Acer? the Predator. They're all the same form factor. So I'm guessing there's one company making the monitors, making the panels, and they're selling them to a variety of other companies. I'm looking at the Samsung specs, and they are not P3. It's sRGB, which is good. sRGB 120, 125 is good. It's a broad color gamut and probably indistinct unless you're a photographer and you need to have super good color matching. I don't think it'll be in any way something you can tell the difference. I am a big fan of these. We have both the Predator 34-inch curved and the Dell 34-inch curved, which was a little less expensive. This Samsung looks like it's a pretty good deal. It's under $1,000. Highly recommend them. And it'll look really nice with that Mac Pro. So while it's not P3, it's still a wide color gamut. And I think probably more. sRGB is a pretty good standard. That's what most photographers are using. That's what I use with the Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop. So I think you're probably all right. Not Fuji, it's LG. LG is the Apple one, right? And LG, by the way, does make a 34 as well. Rosarius is reminding me in the chat room. The 34 UC88B, but that's sRGB, not P3. I think that sRGB is fine. I wouldn't worry about it. Get it. 4 millisecond latency is very fast, good for gaming. The curved monitors are really pretty. I read I've been said many years. I've been saying that all the research shows bigger monitors or multiple monitors are improved productivity. Then I read an article the other day, and I kind of had to say it. Well, I understand his point. Guy said, I'm leaving my multi-monitor setup. I don't want the 34-inch monitor. I just want a 27-inch monitor because I can't do more than one thing at a time. And I don't need 15 monitors with all sorts of things going on. It just ends up distracting me. Now, he's a programmer, a designer, and a coder. And I guess it kind of makes sense if you're working on something to eliminate all that extra screen. I do think there's an advantage, certainly for gaming. This will be a great gaming monitor. As long as the game is savvy to this weird aspect ratio. Because it isn't a normal aspect ratio. It's a ultra wide, right? And so I've noticed some games get stretched out with those. But I think this is I guess if you're asking me, do you recommend it? I'd say absolutely, absolutely. And we know Samsung makes great monitors. Shane from Indiana. Hi, Shane. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Leo, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. So I'm not a big iOS fan, right?
Okay.
But I do really like how the iPad and the iOS apps work, the music creation apps work, right?
Absolutely. They're the best, the highest quality.
They are. Yeah, because, well, with Android, you get that latency, and it's like, okay.
Well, that's right. And although I have to say, Google and others have been making a real attempt to get rid of the latency issue. And in the latest version of Android 7.1.2, which is out soon, they claim to have clobbered that problem.
Really?
They have low late, but the next step would be then for everybody to try it and say yes, and then for developers to start developing music apps once again for Android. They stopped because of the latency.
And they're kind of behind the times because, I mean, if you look at iOS's App Store, it's just loaded full of...
Yeah. And iOS never had this problem. Android is based on a Linux kernel, and apparently the problem started with the Linux kernel. And there's about a 10 millisecond delay, and that can add up as you stack it. And that's enough so that some music's fine. Like if you were going to just do GarageBand, music editing style stuff, fine. But live performance, any latency will kill you. And so that's why DJ apps, all the apps for performance are all on the iPad. Nothing's on Android. Android also, frankly, for some reason, I'm not really sure why, the tablet apps are lacking. Android developers just haven't really supported the tablets very well. Maybe because of a lack of coherent, tablet hardware from, Google. I don't know what it is, but most of the apps are designed for the phone, and they don't scale very well to a tablet size. So in general, you may not be a fan of iOS, and there's lots of reasons not to be. It's a very locked down operating system. But if it's music you want, that's the platform.
Yeah. Well, so this leads into my problem. So there's a new, well, to me it's new. It's MIDI wireless now. Okay, so what you can do is you can take your, let's say I've got a pad that I use to map my rhythms out or whatever. Yeah. It can hook up a MIDI, I guess it's like a relay. So it's over wire.
That's interesting. I'd be worried about latency there. Wireless often adds latency.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm asking, because I don't know, like here I'm trying to avoid the latency with moving to iOS, and but then like if I try and go direct, right? So I've got this MIDI or this pad that has a USB out. And then I try and do the multiple connections, adapters to the iPad. It doesn't like sometimes with some.
There's got to be a way to do it, because you see so many musicians and DJs using iPads nowadays. A lot of them, though, I have to point out, when you see Dead Mouse, he's using a laptop. I don't see him using a tablet, and that may be specifically because of the connectivity offered by a computer. That just the iPad's connectivity is terrible. It has one lightning port. That's it.
That's true. Yeah.
By the way, do not buy an iPad for at least wait a few weeks, because I'm pretty sure Apple's going to announce new iPads in the next month. They did announce one new low-end iPad a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think they're done yet. In fact, we're expecting what will be the ideal iPad, which is a 10.5-inch iPad in the 9.7-inch frame. Again, smaller bezels, and that should be. I think they're going to do that next month. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I agree with you. You can get light. I don't know how they do it, because I'm not a musician. I do see people using iPads, and I presume that there's a way to have a lightning some sort of lightning dock that has all the connectivity you need. And certainly lightning, it's digital. It's got enough throughput that it probably would work.
Yeah, and like I said, it's got good response. I mean, everything that I've used so far.
And there's really great software out there for it. DJs. I take it you're kind of doing DJing.
No, actually, this blossomed from I'm a guitar player, but I have a MIDI set up on my guitar.
Got it. So you can play other instruments. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So so it maps my music for me. I'm lazy. I don't want to write it all.
That's awesome. Well, that's another thing that's really great. Although on the iPad is the software that will transcribe your music and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Although I think the best platform for that now is Windows. Believe it or not, that they've done some really good stuff for Windows.
No, I have been using. It's called MIDI Guitar 2.
Yeah.
And because my amplifier it's a Line 6 amplifier, and you can plug your iPad directly into that amplifier.
That's cool. Okay.
And it has all your patches and everything. But the cool thing about the MIDI Guitar 2 is as I'm playing, it will route it kind of like an audio bus over to GarageBand, and so it'll play the strings along with what I'm playing.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, it sounds like, I would not go Android for sure. Supposedly they're fixing the latency issue, but it's going to take a year or two for the software to catch up if they do fix it. So,
and I'm looking at like 3 different products for the wireless MIDI. There's, of course, Yamaha does one, Sony does one.
Well, they know it would be useless if it had any latency, so they must have solved that somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an expert, unfortunately, on all this, but maybe somebody listening will call in with some suggestions.
And then I do have one more question.
Sure.
It may be on a broader spectrum. I'm a desktop engineer for a company.
Oh, neat.
And what we do is we're an international company. We're Allegion, which we actually own Slade Locks. And we have a little bit of a problem with the 1607 upgrade.
Really?
Yeah. If you're going from English to English, no problems. You can move your data. You can move your apps data. Move great. But if you're going from another language, because we're an international business, you're going from another language to that language, huge problems.
Has anybody been testing the Creators Update, the one that's coming out in a week? Because I wonder if they fixed that.
As far as like business goes, we usually stay, we know this works. You know what I mean? Because
the anniversary update, 1607, was terrible for a lot of things. A lot of people have had problems. You'd think by now, it's almost a year, they'd have fixed it. And maybe they were waiting for the Creators Update. 1703 is due out soon.
Because they're going to stop support on they stop support on 1507, and they stop and they're going
because they want to push you. They want to. Hey, I got to run. I don't have a fix for that, except that it's not surprising at all. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Take care. Hey, Chris Marquardt, I see you.
Hello.
And I hear you, and you hear me.
That's wonderful.
We're good. We'll do our thing in 10 minutes.
All right.
Thanks, Chris. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. Bob on the line, Pasadena, California. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Leo. Hey, for a month or two now, I've been aware of these network storage devices, the personal iClouds.
Yes.
And last week you mentioned your favorite.
Synology.
And so I went online and checked it out. And so they come empty, right? No hard drives in them.
Yeah, so you're getting sticker shock because you're looking at $600-700 and there's no hard drives in there.
Right. You're all excited. Holy cow!
What the heck? No, it's an expensive solution. I agree.
Well, but here's where I am. So I've got the smart TV, the smart Blu-ray player, the smart AVR, and the dumb owner.
That's kind of the story of our lives, isn't it? Everything's smart in the house except me.
Yeah, right. They're all hardwired into the home network.
Yep.
And so I have successfully played. I had years ago converted my VHS home tapes to DVDs.
Good.
And then I've successfully
copied the DVDs now onto the hard drive. Yep.
Right, little old, Western Digital 2 or 3 terabyte thing, and I mean I don't have that many hours of video. It's maybe 30 hours, but it's still it doesn't always come through the TV, or it'll pause, or all those hiccups, and so I'm sitting there going, okay, is this network thing going to give me just a more reliable?
Yeah, you want a media streaming server, a server that's running the media streamers for Windows or iTunes or what, and all of them do this. Synology does this. I'm going to help you a little bit with cost because if you look at the Synology, the one I use has 5 disk bays. That's $700 minus. Then you add the hard drives. You're talking probably $1,500 by the time you're done.
Right.
But Synology also makes 2 drive enclosures. And the nice thing about Synology, it's the same software no matter what.
Oh, okay.
So you don't get less capable software. So you can get their 2-disc station for let's see, what is it, $170.
Okay.
And then you populate it with a couple of drives. The good news is drives are cheap. You don't have to buy giant drives right up front. You have to figure out how much data you want to source.
Okay, so now you're touching a couple things where the nut of my question is, like on hard drives, does spin rate matter? So there's what?
No, you get the cheap ones because especially with the multiple drives, it's not important. So I generally get the Reds, the Western Digital Reds, which are 4 NAS servers. They're slower, 5,400 RPM drives.
Right.
Choose the capacity you can afford and you need. You get 1, 2, 4 terabytes.
Okay.
But remember that when you have 2, you're going to double it because 2 times 4 is 8 terabytes, and then you subtract about 1/3 for redundancy. And you are going to want to use redundancy. That way, if one drive fails, you don't lose everything.
Right. But when you use redundancy, you're only consuming a third of your...
Well, it depends how it does it. You're right. Now, in a 2-drive system, you're not doing RAID 5, so you're going to lose half. On a 5-drive system, it's less.
And then if you were... So let's say I went with the, 2 terabyte hard drives, then at some point, could I put larger hard drives in there?
Absolutely.
And then what do? Just switch them out one at a time and copy?
Yep, it'll rebuild it.
Okay.
Now, I don't have experience with the 2-drive solution, so obviously that's somewhat more limited. With a 5-drive solution, it's easy. You just pop a drive out, you put another one in.
Right.
I have not investigated how you do it on a 2-drive, but I presume, that the disk station software that comes with it has the software to say, all right, I'm going to upgrade a drive, and you just do it.
Okay.
So Western Digital Reds are fine. Those are designed for network-attached storage. They run cooler. They don't spin up as high, but the speed is adequate. And so if you add two terabyte drives, you get 4 terabytes minus whatever the redundancy. You're talking under $500 for the whole thing.
Oh, man.
Much better.
Made my day.
Much better, right?
Made my day.
Yeah. And you're going to love it. And of course, what's going to happen, I got to warn you, is you're going to get hooked, and then you're going to end up buying a 5-bay unit.
Well, I look forward to that day.
Yes. When your ship comes in. That's what I always told the kids. Oh, we'll get that someday when my ship comes in. They keep asking me, has your ship come in yet? Is it ever coming in? No, it's never coming in. It's too late now. The ship.
Right. But at least now they have to come back home to visit to ask that question.
Yes, right.
Being in the room next
It's
door.
exactly right. I'd say my ship will come in when you get out of college and I don't have to pay tuition. That's when my ship will come in. It's coming. I see it on the horizon. Distant horizon. Thank you, Bob. Have a good one. Take care. So these network-attached storage devices are really computers. I mean, let's be honest. These are computers minus keyboard, mouse, and monitor. Sometimes they call that a headless computer. And often they're really designed around massive storage. So that's why you can get them with 2, 4, 5, 8, 10 drives and more. The idea being you've got a computer that is really all about storage. It has a processor. The Synologies typically use an Intel Atom processor, not a super fast, but fast enough to do the job. It has RAM, and it has an operating system. In the case of Synologies, it's called DSM, but different network-attached storage solutions. They're often based on Linux. We'll have different kinds of software. And the software then allows you to do other things, including, just like a computer, install applications. Typically, people will immediately install a disk backup application. They may, if you've got movies you want to stream, you may install a media server, whether it's iTunes or Windows, or more commonly, something like Plex. You'll install that on there. That's an app that's running on the operating system on the network-attached storage. So it's just like a server. You put it in your closet because you don't need to look at it because there's no computer, mouse, or monitor. You control it. You log into it via a browser on any system that's on that same network. And these things are very useful for I use it for backup to as he kind of said, replace iCloud or, OneDrive or whatever cloud solution you're using. The Synologies, you can do everything Google does. They have cloud-based word processing, cloud-based spreadsheets. I don't need to use Evernote anymore because I've got my own note solution. So everything is stored, on my premises. If privacy is a concern, that's one way to solve that. You then become responsible for security and maintenance. Suddenly you have a different job. You're now a sysadmin. But there's some of us who actually enjoy that kind of thing. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Guess who's coming up? Chris Marquardt, our photo guy. We're going to get some digital photography advice, and we'll reiterate the assignment. I hope you've been taking pictures, uploading them to our Flickr group, the Tech Guy group on Flickr.com. That's coming up in just a little bit. Don't forget the website, techguylabs.com. I'll put some links to different network-attached storage solutions up there. I am a big fan of the Synologies. A friend of mine just said, he sent me a note saying, am I smart enough to install these? And I said, I think you are, but I'll help you. It's a little more complicated than a computer, but it's fun. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I didn't. So I understand sRGB is not as wide a color gamut as P3, which is Apple's new thing. But the guy wasn't a photographer. He was just more interested in specs. Chris, what do you use? You use sRGB or use Adobe RGB on your...
Well, depends on for what, but the thing is, whatever you set up on your camera doesn't matter at all as long as you shoot RAW.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was told not to use Adobe for a long time ago, and I just still use sRGB for everything.
Well, if you want the lowest common denominator that works on every web browser, the sRGB is usually the best bet.
That's why,
If you want to put anything online, don't go with Adobe RGB. You can use it in editing if you...
if you're making prints, right? If I were making a gallery show, I might use Adobe, right? Or no?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But again, depends. I mean, if the printer knows what they're doing, and you know what you're doing,
right?
If you know what color management means, and that is a bit of a thing that requires a bit of study, but at that point, yeah, sure, absolutely, totally fine.
Yeah. I just use sRGB for everything.
Oh, I recommend. I usually recommend to people that if they have to ask what Adobe RGB is versus sRGB, then they should probably stick with sRGB.
Yeah. It's I imagine a wider color space, but Adobe.
It is a wider color space. Yeah. It just holds more colors. And but still, I mean, sRGB does the job. I mean, we're not going into super gamut displays that are showing up on like the iPad Pro and so on, which is another example of their, I don't even know what's the color space called they're using.
P3.
P3, yeah, which is another example of a big color space.
Right.
And there are multiple ones. The thing is, there are different color spaces that are kind of helpful for different applications. Right. So if you go into printing, you will typically use different color spaces than if you go into on-screen display.
P3 is intended for movies. So
well, that's probably what it was developed for, but it can certainly be used for other things. Mm-hmm. Well, again, if that's my recommendation to people, if they have to ask what it is and how it works, then it's probably best to stick with sRGB.
I think
still to this day.
Yeah, I think people, like that caller, he read the term, and so he was a spec monkey. He wants the latest spec.
Oh,
would he notice the difference? No.
And it's one of these things, if you buy the most expensive camera on the market, it's probably not going to do you a favor because it's way more difficult to handle. It has more buttons, it has more settings. It will just be more confusing than helpful if you haven't really taken the time to learn it.
Right.
So, and color management, I mean, there are classes about color management, how to make sure that the colors that you see are then captured well with the camera and then transferred well to the computer and then handled well on the computer.
God,
and then
crazy.
And then you have all sorts of output things like screens and printers. And well, that's usually the two big ones, the screens and the printers. And you need to do color management on that side. And there's so much stuff that you can still get wrong. So color management.
Apple really uses P3 as a marketing term. Certainly there are photographers and video editors who say, "Oh, I need P3," but for the rest of us, it's just, well, it's better. It's
better.
It's got more color.
Well, and the thing is, with the Apple devices, it's kind of under the hood. It tries to do the right shots, and
they're actually good in color management. I mean,
they are, yeah.
All right, here we go. Mama, don't take my Kodachrome. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Chris Marquardt's here. That song means our digital photography guru is here. Hi, Chris.
Hello, how are you?
We were talking before the break. During the break, nobody was hearing it, but during the break we were talking about color spaces because remember Bob was calling from Brooklyn and he wanted a color space, a monitor that supported Apple's P3 color space. And I said, well, and he was looking at one that didn't support P3, it supported sRGB. I said, that's fine. You'll be fine. It's 100. It was fine. No, but
it is.
Yeah. If you, as you said, if you really know what it means, if you're a colorist, if you're a specialist in this, fine. But for most people, P3 and Apple saying we have P3 color gamut is a marketing term more than anything else.
Well, there are a few colors where you might see a difference, but in I'd say 95% of all pictures, it would be a hard thing for most people to be able to differentiate between the two.
You'd have to really do a side-to-side comparison, and then somebody would have to say, "And see that mauve? Now look at it on this monitor. See the difference." What? Oh yeah, I see a little difference. What do we want to talk about today? You're the digital photography guru.
Well, this is just partially about digital photography. I have this recurring question. I get it over and over again, so it kind of deserves a recurring answer because people still have that question: what filters should I use? Why do I need them? Do I need them at all? So I just wanted to go through I think 2 most important filters and the 2 least important filters.
These are the things you screw on your lens.
Yes, that's the ones you have. This with most bigger cameras, you have a thread, so-called filter thread on the front, and then you can screw on the filters. And there are a couple of filters that are still valuable in this day and age, and one is the polarizer. That's one that I use. The polarizer helps you to get more saturated colors, but you will lose light. The polarizer will take away some light. So it's usually done when you shoot on the outside and when you are in direct sunlight. That's where it works best. And it works really best. Is it like
polarized sunglasses? Is it the same thing as that?
Yeah. You have the same effect with polarized sunglasses, that they will kind of make everything pop a bit more and the colors are a bit stronger.
I don't know if people anymore, but this for a while, when I can't remember who it was it Ray-Ban? Somebody, maybe it was Polaroid, was saying, we polarized sunglasses, and it eliminates glare, right?
That's where the name came from, Polaroid, polarizer.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Now, there's different. So the way that those old sunglasses worked, they were like Venetian blinds. You couldn't see them, but you were looking. It would have horizontal lines that would break up the glare.
Very, very fine lines.
Yeah, you don't see them, but they do. So is that how the polarizer works on your camera?
Yes. That's what it does. And
that's why it's darker.
Light and it takes away light, but it kind of forces light into one angle of rotation. Right. It's a bit like Venetian blinds, yeah. And
now I've seen circular polarizers for cameras instead of horizontal lines. They're concentric circles.
There are actually 2 layers, one with lines and then one's where it kind of swirls it around.
Is that the best?
Yes, that's the one you want to use for your camera. A circular polarizer.
Okay.
And that will just make the colors pop better. You can rotate them, so look through the viewfinder, rotate it until it kind of looks nicest.
Oh.
It's angle dependent.
Oh, that's cool.
It's also angle dependent where the sun is to you. If the sun is to your right or to your left, then it has the strongest effect. So polarizer is kind of a thing that I have with me and I use every now and then. Not a lot, but it's nice to kind of, for example, look through windows that would usually have lots of reflections on them or surfaces of water. Second filter that is still quite useful is an ND filter, a neutral density filter. That's pretty much sunglasses for your camera. It just darkens everything down without messing with the colors too much. And there are 2 reasons to use that one. The first is if you want longer exposures. Let's say you're shooting at the beach, you want that water to be all smoothed out, and then for that you would need, a 10-second exposure. That's what you can use an ND filter for. You just pretty much take away a lot of light, so the camera has to expose longer. Or if you want to shoot with what we call a wider open aperture in sunlight. Normally in sunlight, the camera will try to shut out all that light because it's too much. So it will close down the aperture and it will give you a very short shutter speed. Now, if you want a bigger aperture, for example, to get a nicer, what we call bokeh, a nicer out of focus behind your subject, that's what you could use an ND filter for as well. So these are the 2 filters that are absolutely fine to use. I recommend them for exactly these applications. Now there's a filter that I get asked about all the time. That's a UV filter.
Yeah, when I was at the camera store and I bought my new camera,
try to sell you
they said you need a haze filter or a UV filter on there.
And in film days, that made a lot of sense because on film, the UV light that comes in, especially when there's a lot of sun, that will kind of, has the tendency to mess a bit with the colors. Here's the secret. The digital camera, your digital camera, any digital camera has that built in. If you open that up and look at the sensor, there's a UV filter right there. So you don't need a UV filter to fix the colors. Now, another reason they're trying to sell you that is to protect your camera, to protect your lens from scratches. Now, if it makes you feel better, sure, buy one, but don't buy a cheap one. Get at least a multi-coated one. Get one that has, let's put it this way. You don't want to shoot every photo with your expensive $700 lens through a $20 filter. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It will pretty much leave its mark on every single photo you take. So get a bit of a better one, or even better, instead of that, try a lens hood. A lens hood is a super protection for your camera. And you know me, I don't pull any punches with how I treat my camera. And in 30 years, I've never scratched the glass on a lens because I'm always using a lens hood. It's always on the camera.
Those are if you get a good lens, the plastic thing that comes with the lens that screws on it, and it kind of makes it more of a tube. It also keeps stray light.
It
looks pro. But it also keeps stray light from coming in from the side, which is usually a good thing.
That's a side effect of it. It increases your contrast in photos, and it protects the lens from pretty much anything you can throw at it.
Because, I hit things with my lens.
Comes and stabs it,
I hit things with my lens all the time. But most of the time, all it does is it hits that hood.
But I've never scratched a lens in 30 years. I never scratched the front of a lens because of the lens hood. I'm never using these filters. So protective filters. Well, there are some lenses that are kind of only splash proof if that filter is attached, more of the pro lenses, but they will tell you. And that's where a protective filter does make sense. But for I would say 90% of people listening, you won't need those. Get a lens hood.
Yeah, I agree. You can actually, a lot of point and shoots even, you can get a lens hood.
Oh, definitely,
yeah. Chris Marquardt, he is a great photographer. Actually, his latest book is about film photography, and I highly recommend it. I have a copy, and I love it. And you learn a lot about not just film, but about photography in general. You can get all of Chris's stuff at his website, including his workshops and photo tours. Morocco's coming up, Ireland. That's 2018. You sold out the 2017 Bhutan. They're very popular. Go to discoverthetopfloor.com because he sells these out fast because they're small groups. You learn so much, and everybody loves Chris. I bet you have a lot of return customers.
I do,
yeah, people just want to go with Chris on these trips. Discoverthetopfloor.com. Chris Marquardt, thank you so much.
Thank you, Leo.
You're an inspiring addition to this show. You always make me want to take pictures. Actually, speaking of which, what's our assignment this month?
A turn.
Turn.
T-U-R-N.
Not T-E-R-N.
Turn. Another word with a lot of different meanings.
What does it mean? Take a picture, upload it to our Flickr group, the Tech Guy group. You can upload a picture every week. It's really about getting you out there taking photos. And in a couple of weeks, Chris will pick his 3 favorites. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. 8888, ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Gary on the line from Buffalo, New York. Hi, Gary. Leo Laporte.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for calling. What can I do for you?
I'm still in the dinosaur age here. I need a good search program for desktop. Windows keeps leaving me in the dust here. Every once in a while, the index stops working, and I got to redo it. So I've been playing with 3 of them. It comes down to, it looks like, and I was wondering if you had any recommendation. Even if it's something other than these 3. But I've been playing with X1.
That's my favorite.
Is it? Yeah, and I'm talking about the paid version. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only negative. X1 used to be free, and then it was a no-brainer. I would just say, everybody get X1. It's a much better search. One of the nice things about X1 is it starts searching immediately. So you type 1 letter, it finds everything that begins with that letter. 2 letters, 3 letters, it adds to, it narrows it down. And it makes it very fast to find anything you want. Searches into emails. searches into documents in a way that Windows built-in search does not. Fast indexer, yeah. What are the others? Because I don't know if I've tried the others. I like X1 so much.
Lookeen, Lookeen. Mm-hmm. And then Copernic, I think it is.
Copernic, yeah. Oh, gosh, I didn't know they were still around. Copernic is an old-timer. I think, is Copernic free still, or did they start charging for it?
I don't know. I looked at they do have a paid version. That's why I'm looking at. I like the paid version because I just feel...
You want to support them. I agree. I haven't used Copernic since, probably Windows 98. So I don't know. I don't know how good it is these days. I do know that X1 is the king of the hill as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen Lookeen. I'll have to look at Lookeen. Uncle Bick is saying there's another one. Is it called Everything? Search Everything? All right. So, it's interesting. There's such a brisk market in search alternatives. It just shows you Microsoft's not doing the best job they could.
I don't know why, but every once in a while I'll search for something that should be there, and it won't show up, and then I'll have to go redo the index, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm going to pay for one. So
this one is everything is free. It's from voidtools.com. And I think that they're trying to make something very lightweight and simple. It might be worth at least looking at it, see if it'll do the job you want it to do. And this is free.
Okay.
So Void Tools, it's called the Everything Search Engine. It doesn't do, I think, the thing I like most about X1, which is that X1 is really, their business is really for enterprise, massive databases spread out over multiple servers. But as a result, they make a heavy-duty search engine that if you're just searching on one machine is the fastest thing I've ever experienced. I mean, it's amazing. And because it looks into documents, and understands document formats, I think that's much more useful. You can search for a line in an email or a line in a letter and find that document even if you don't know the name of it. So, yeah. That's my favorite easily, yeah.
Just one other quick question, if I can. What's your prediction for when the Samsung S7 is going to drop in price significantly?
Should be dropping now, right? Because now that they've announced the S8, I think that... but certainly by the time... April 21 is when those phones, the new S8 phones, get in stores. At that point, if you're a T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon store and you've got S7s lying around, you can't charge the full price. Because somebody's just going to say, well, wait a minute, for that same price, I can buy a brand new S8. Why would I buy the S7? So if they haven't started dropping yet, they absolutely will April 21st.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Wow, there's even more. Here's one, Jam Software's Ultra Search. It just shows... Now, these are not... By the way, I should emphasize, this is not about searching the Internet. This is about searching what's on your hard drive. Although, I do believe there are tools that do both simultaneously. But it just shows you that... Microsoft Search, even with Windows 10, I guess people are still unhappy. I don't use it enough to really be unhappy with it. But boy, Microsoft, you'd think maybe they don't want to kill the market for third-party search tools. I don't know. Caleb, San Diego, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, Caleb. Oh, I'm going to put you on hold and. Kim, maybe you could wake Caleb up. I don't know what happened to him. Let's move to William in Costa Mesa, California. Hi, William.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good, thank you. I have a question for you.
Yes.
How about a new telephone, the one Motorola G Plus?
Yeah.
And for some reason, I pushed something, and the screen, the windows where you just slide your hand and download the apps to put on your screen.
Yeah.
All the windows just disappear. I don't know what I did.
Okay, now I'm going to have to imagine how this looks. So you're looking at your screen on your Motorola. You got a G5 Plus or G6 Plus? Which one did you get? G5?
I believe it's the G5.
Yeah, and that, by the way, really nice phone. Highly recommend it. Inexpensive, $200. And it's almost pure.
I pay like $275, so it might be the other one.
Yeah. The Plus is a little more expensive, so yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very pure Android, which I like. So you're looking at Android, and you install apps through what's called the Play Store. That's the Android app that you install apps in. So did you go into the Play Store? Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. To look at the app drawer, right, where all the installed apps are. That one?
Yes, but you know, when you open your phone, you have like a little windows where you just slide your finger.
Yeah. And there used to.
You can download the apps and put it right there. Put any apps you want.
Yeah, the app drawer. I think that's it. So in the new version of Android, they've gotten rid of the app drawer button. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but in the dock at the bottom. So let me get some terms here. So you're looking at the screen. There's a bar at the bottom. That's called your dock. In there, on the dock, there's a grid of dots. If you tap that, usually that slides open the app drawer, and that's where all the apps you've installed are. If you want to get an app all the time, you drag it out of there. You press it with your finger and drag it out of there onto the desktop, and that will be there all the time. Now, I'm not sure exactly what you're experiencing. Can you not slide up that drawer? Is that what you're not being able to do, or? Yes,
I cannot do that because you know it's always come. I have another Android before, and always come with the Windows, you know. But it's clean. There is no apps in there, but and you just drag the app, whatever the app.
Yeah, you drag it out. Yeah.
Yes, you drag it out.
So that's called the app drawer that you slide up. The app drawer, which you have to slide up, has all the apps you've installed. And you can take any of them and put an icon onto the desktop there so that you can access it quickly. In the most recent version of Android, they've taken away that little button that slide up the app drawer. And now you just slide your finger up the screen, and it's supposed to slide up. Now, Alan's here. He's got his Motorola Z Play. Do they still have on the Z? Have you updated that, Alan? Does it still have the app drawer icon at the bottom in the dock there? Yeah, that's still there. Yeah. So, on more, yeah.
I guess that's a new phone, so I haven't even, it's like probably...
Yeah, you don't have any customization. I understand. So look in the dock at the bottom. At the dock in the bottom, there's going to be in the middle...
yeah, a circle. I don't circle with all the dots.
Yeah. When you tap that, does it open up?
Yeah, when I tap it open, but it opens up the whole app, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah, it's everything. Now, if you want to get one of those, let's say you always like to do something on Twitter. You find that... Yeah, and you press it and hold it just for a second or two. That's called a long press in Android terms. And then you can drag it, start dragging it off the edge of there and place it on the screen, and it'll be a permanent icon on the screen. So that's how you customize the Google. You know what it is? This new phone has the newer launcher that doesn't look like your old launcher. And so it just takes a little while to get used to it, I think.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, if it is, if I fill it up the first page, we'll start another page.
Oh, I see. You want another page.
Yeah, because it's only showed me like...
Yeah, you can make another page. So
Yeah, because before I don't know what I did. I pushed some button and...
Yeah, you can delete those pages. Yeah, so the launcher can have as many pages as you want. Depends on which launcher you're using. You can either go into the launcher settings, which you'll find in that app drawer. It'll say the Pixel launcher. I can't remember which launcher you have. The Google Now, probably the Google Now launcher. So go to the Google Now launcher, open the settings, and you can add pages. Or, I'm pretty sure, I don't have one in front of me, you can squeeze the screen. Use 3 fingers and squeeze the screen so you're pinching it small, and that'll make it small, and you can add more pages to the right there. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, you want to add pages to your launcher. On the Google Now launcher, I think if you pinch, you can add those pages easily. Otherwise, do it in the settings. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. The one day I didn't bring my Android device. Yeah, I know exactly what happened now. So your launcher on Android has multiple pages. I think it defaults to 4. And you can, if by accident, I think easily enough, accidentally delete those additional pages. So you're down to 1 page. He says he can't swipe. Now I understand he couldn't swipe over anymore. I would think you've got the same OS that he does on your X or your Z. So does it, if you do a pinch like that, not in the app drawer, go to the front page of your phone. Oh yeah, you are on the front page. So I want to know how you add pages. If you pinch, can you add pages? Or you just do it in the settings? Yeah, there you go. How'd you do that? How'd you get to that?
Just clicked on, first of all, to see all the apps, and you just hold one and then drag it.
Oh, that's a good trick. Okay, here's a new way to do it. We figured out a better way to do it, William. That's good. Alan figured it out. He's got a Motorola phone too. But all Android phones do this. So you open up the app drawer and you want to add, let's say, pick any icon. It doesn't really matter which one. But pick one maybe you want to add and start to swipe it out of the app drawer. And as you swipe to the right, it will add new blank pages for you to put that icon on. So you can add more pages just by doing that. So if you've run out of room on the front page and you don't have a second page, open the app drawer, press that dot with all the dots in it, the button with all the dots in it, open the app drawer, pick an icon that you want to use, start to drag it over to the right, and as you drag it, it will slide onto a new blank page, and you can keep doing that. You can add more than one blank page. Although if there's no icon on a page, it goes away. So swipe it to the right and leave it there, and now you've got added a new page, and you can do that again and again and again. That's good. Drag to the far right. Long press and drag to the far right. Yeah, no, I like Nova Launcher. Lately, I've been using Action Launcher as my favorite launcher. And shoot, I didn't bring my Pixel today. I don't know why. Oh, I ran out the door, that's why. But with the Pixel, you can... an Action Launcher on the Pixel has some really nice features. And I would show you, but I can't. So there. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers and the internet and home theater and digital photography and smartphones and smartwatches and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. If you're out of that area, you can still use Skype and reach us. We'd love to hear from you. 8888 Ask Leo. So we talk about everything in tech. I mean everything. It's got a chip in it. We'll talk about it. And if I don't know anything about it, I'll make it up. No, I won't. I won't do that. I will ask the chat room, though, and there's 500 or 600 people in there who probably can answer just about any question. And if they can't, well, then there's a few 100,000 people or so listening who could probably answer it. So we'll find the answer to almost any question here. Let's start with Caleb in San Diego, California. Hi, Caleb.
Hey, Mr. Laporte. I was wondering, what's the difference between having one password and a password vault like Monkey, or having one password for all your separate accounts like Monkey?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? Yeah. So, because I said, you heard me say that. Don't have the same password on every site you go to. And I'll tell you why that's a problem. In fact, it's a problem lately, particularly. There's a hacker group. I guess they're hackers. They're kind of more publicity hounds than anything else, called the Turkish Crime Family. They're not from Turkey. They're from northern London. And they're probably not a family, but they're definitely criminals. And they say they have figured out the password to 250 million iCloud accounts. But they say we never hacked Apple. So the puzzle is, well, how would they know the passwords to people's Apple's account if they didn't hack Apple? Well, there are people who use the same password on other sites. There's an Android game called Evony. Actually, it's a company that makes a number of games, EVONY. You might have seen their ads. They buy a lot of TV ads. Apparently, Evony got hacked, and these bad guys got that database of passwords and logins. And what they did is they checked. First, they went through the Evony password list and saw which people had .Mac or MobileMe or iCloud accounts. And then they checked to see if those people were using the same password on their iCloud account that they were using on their Evony account. A lot of them were. And that's how they figured out some number. We don't know if it's really 250 million, but that's how they figured out the passwords to a large number of iCloud accounts, because people reused their password. And when Evony got hacked, they in effect were giving up their password to iCloud too. Does that make sense, Caleb? If you use the same password and one of the sites gets hacked, then that password can be used on other sites too.
If you have the bank, though, if you put in that password, you have all the passwords to see all the other ones?
Well, because you're not using that. That's a great question, too. So the password vault that we were talking about makes a different password for every site. But you're quite rightly observed, but you have one password for the vault, to unlock the vault. But that password isn't on the internet anywhere. Only you know that in your brain. So even though you only have one, this is the beauty of it. You only remember one password, and that password unlocks all the other passwords. But it's safer because you're not putting that on the internet. You're just keeping that in your brain.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great question, Caleb. Does that make sense? I think Caleb got it. Did you get it? It's kind of complicated. If you reuse passwords, that makes you more vulnerable, because if anywhere you use that password gets hacked, everywhere you use that password is vulnerable. So that's why you shouldn't reuse passwords. The problem is, who can remember hundreds of good, strong, random passwords? No one, except maybe Mr. Memory. But I'm not Mr. Memory, so I use a password vault. I stuff all those passwords in the vault, and then I unlock that vault with the one password that I know. But I don't use that one password. See, a big mistake would be to use that one password somewhere else. No, never reuse that password. Make that password vault password good, long, strong, and memorize it. Don't write it down. Well, I guess you could. Actually, you could write it down, but put it somewhere safe. Put it in another vault. But you don't want that one to be on the internet anywhere. If it's in your brain, it's safer. You just can't stuff 100 passwords or 1,000 passwords in your brain. George in Maine, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, George.
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Oh, boy. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, George. Thanks for calling.
I have kind of a simple question that has an obvious answer, but I don't think the obvious answer is the right answer.
Oh, those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I purchased recently and received an advertised new in-the-box laptop online, of which he had many, and I purchased one.
Yeah.
And my problem seems to be singularly unique to all the ones he sold. I turned it on and watched it go through all this setup, and at the end of that, it went to a login screen complete with icon, username, and requesting a password.
What was the username?
I don't have it in front of me. I forget what it was.
But it was like somebody's name, like Joe?
No, it was like Itira 6 or something similar. And anyway...
That's not what you should see on a brand new out-of-the-box laptop, as I think you know.
That's why I said it there's an...
Well, there's two possibilities. One, it's a used laptop.
Right, I don't believe so, but go ahead.
The other is that the seller opened it up and did something to it.
Well, the seller was in a different location than the shipper.
Yeah. So where did you buy this laptop?
It was on eBay.
Oh, okay. There you go. Stop right there.
Well,
okay.
A zillion of them.
See, if you buy a Lenovo laptop from, let's say, Lenovo or Best Buy, and it came like that, I'd be pretty miffed. It shouldn't come like that. It should come with a Windows setup screen that says, welcome to your new computer. Let's go through a few steps to get it set up. Not somebody's already logged into this. So it really doesn't even matter whether it was used or the person who sold it to you logged in and set it up. You can't trust that laptop now.
That's what I figured. I mean, would just having a new hard drive installed?
Oh, yeah, that'd fix it. Or you don't even need to go to that length. Just wipe it and reinstall Windows. That should be sufficient.
But okay, but it's a laptop that doesn't have an optical drive, so I don't know how I'd reinstall Windows.
Is it Windows 10?
It's Windows 7 Premium or Home or something like that.
Oh.
Which I actually sought out. It's like a 2012 vintage Lenovo ThinkPad.
Yeah. Well, it's not new, that's for sure. Then it's used, so you don't want, because you don't know what's on there. It might be completely benign.
Right.
Yeah. So there is on there I mean, probably, unless they wiped it out, a recovery partition. But here's the problem. You can't even trust that because you don't know what they did.
Right.
So maybe they've compromised the recovery partition. You'd go through the recovery process, which erases the drive and reinstalls, actually erases the partition and reinstalls Windows from a hidden partition on the computer. But because you didn't control that computer when that partition was put there, you don't know what's going on with that. Chances are it's probably fine. Really depends on the motivations of the seller.
Right. He was very high, you know, he had like a uber high rating and whatnot, and he had multiple of these laptops. And like I say, by every indication, it's like new in the box.
Almost certainly what happened, he bought a closeout from a company or something like that. These had been used. They were lightly used, probably. And in most, if that's the case, you can, you know, he's not trying to hack you. You can reinstall from the recovery partition. The problem is you don't know. And you can't really tell whether this guy is legit or not. So there's your problem. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hold on a sec. So we had to take a break there, but I'm still on with you. Was it sold as new?
Yes, it was sold as new, not as new. You know, the next step down.
It was new.
You know, it was.
Well,
new.
return it. I mean, then eBay, PayPal should protect you on this, and you can return it.
Right.
But this is the problem. You know, it's going to be hard to find a never used 2012 laptop.
Well, I understand that, and like I say, I get the impression that it was, but I mean, I could be wrong on that.
Well, it was. We know it was used because somebody's got an account on it. So we don't know how much it was used. Might have been used for 5 seconds. We don't know. Right. So here's the potential threat is that this guy not only is selling used laptops as new, but is a hacker who's put spyware on it. So you really don't want to trust the recovery partition. What you want to do is download a Windows 7 install.
Right.
Wipe the disk and reinstall. Now, the reason I asked if it was Windows 10, if Windows 10, this is a no-brainer. That's easy. And once the machine's been authenticated, there's no problem. Your problem is, do you have a serial number for Windows 7? Is it on the laptop?
That I'm not sure.
Because if you don't want to have to, you may have to, if you have a serial number, you can then download Windows 7's, install ISO from Microsoft, put it on a USB key.
Right.
Wipe the drive and really wipe it. You know, use the partition manager to kill all the partitions, format them all, and install Windows 7 from there. And if you have the key, then when it asks for the key, you just enter it. Yeah. If you don't have a key, and by the way, on that machine, it should be on the bottom. There should be a sticker.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, it's stickered.
Yeah, on the bottom, there's a sticker with a serial number.
Yeah.
You can use that to reactivate, because you need to activate Windows 7 on that machine again. Without the serial number, you may not be able to do that.
Right, and I don't even think I can access this partition drive. I mean, without logging in, it's like every time I turn it on, it's just a login screen.
Yeah, you want to wipe it, and the way you do that is you'll download the ISO, the installed thing. Microsoft has a media creation tool that'll turn it into a bootable USB key. You have to, when you boot up the machine, you have to go into the setup and say boot from the USB key, not the hard drive. Okay. It'll boot up into a Windows installer. And then in the Windows installer, go into the options and wipe that drive.
All right. I'm not a techie, but I'll
and then I would absolutely leave a bad rating for this seller because he's a liar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time and your input.
Okay. Good luck.
Thanks.
Take care. Don't buy laptops on eBay. Ever. 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 That's right. Microsoft asks for the serial number at the before you can download it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. What have we learned from our last call? Don't buy laptops on eBay. That's not. Don't buy laptops on eBay. Do not. Don't buy a computer on eBay. No, I do buy stuff on eBay. I bought my Nintendo Switch on eBay because I couldn't get one in the stores. It was sold out, although I guess they're starting to enter the stores again now. So I paid a premium. I knew I was paying a premium. But that's a little different. I would be very leery of a laptop you buy on eBay. Even if the box is sealed, you can buy shrink wrap sealers. That's not a hard thing to have. Even if it looks like it's, intact. Even if it doesn't boot with some weird account on it, you still don't know what's been done to it. It's always better to buy a laptop from a real vendor, in my opinion. 8888, ask Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Deborah, Rancho Palos Verdes, Leo Laporte. Hi, Deborah.
Hello, Leo. Thank you so much for taking my call. This is kind of like a public service.
Yeah, it's a public service, but I get paid for it. I'm not going to lie to you. I make a living at it.
Okay, well, I'll greatly appreciate it.
Like most public servants, I'm cashing in.
All right, well, you deserve it.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely.
Actually, I'm not cashing in like most public servants. Not anywhere near that, but go ahead.
Okay.
What can I do for you?
I hope I'm wording this correctly because even though I listen to you, I don't always understand what you're talking about, so I'm not as techie as a lot of your other callers are. But I am trying to figure out when somebody, I know when you log into a website, that server, and your own computer will show where you logged into and what time you did it.
Yeah.
Unless somebody erases it somehow.
That's right. That's in your browser history.
Okay. What if somebody, i.e. a student, my daughter,
logs
in during a class onto a website, which they're supposed to be logging into. It's called Learning Catalytics.
Good.
And, which I never heard of, and she doesn't have to keep logging into it, but what happens is the professor wants the kids to attend the class even though he provides everything so that you could do it from some remote location.
So it's an online learning site that professor is recommending, and he does keep is this what you're saying? And he keeps track of whether the students use it or not.
Well, what he wants to keep track of is that the kids actually show up in class even though they wouldn't have to. So he expects the kids to go to class. He doesn't use sign-in sheets except for 2 days during this entire semester.
Yeah.
First day, she does the sign-in sheet. Second day, she misses the sign-in sheet. He circulates the thing while they're taking the quiz. So it starts off with a quiz. Then the time period for the availability, the ability of a kid to be able to take the quiz, that shuts down. He's got this projector. He shines it on the wall. He does his lecture. He talks for, 5-10 minutes about some topic. And then there will be some little symbol on the wall, on the projector that prompts the kids to then log in.
Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Now, by then, all the kids in the class, there's like 35 to 40 kids in the class. By then, all their screens have gone blank, and they all have to refresh their screens in order to do this.
Right.
If you're in the class, which my kid was, I need an IT perspective to try to help her prove that she was in fact in class. Because this was 2 months ago. She doesn't remember what the guy was wearing. She doesn't remember if it was...
So he's asking her for proof because she's not on the sign-up sheet that she was there so that she can get credit. And you're hoping that her computer will demonstrate that she was there.
That would be a godsend. So when she presses this refresh button, it's not like logging in. When you do your refresh button...
No, but the browser would have a record of her being... It wouldn't prove that she was in the class, but it would have a record of her being on that site at that time.
Would it prove, kind of timestamp exactly when she...
Yeah, but remember, she could do that from home, too.
But here's the thing. She can't. Because all the people, sitting in their pajamas in their apartments... All they see is a blank screen. They don't see the professor. Their screens, after they, illegally take their quiz at their remote location.
What school is this? Is this reform school?
It is a wonderful top university east of the Mississippi.
Okay.
In California, but no, and it's a great place.
And you're a tiger mom because you're not going to let this slide.
Well, no, here's the reason. She will not be able to apply to med school for 2 years because of this honor code violation.
That's ridiculous. Okay.
Tell me right. I know.
So her laptop's browser, the browser she used will have a record of all the websites she visited with a time and date stamp. So you can say, you could take a screenshot of it and send it to them and say, look, here it is, proof positive. On this date, at this time, she was on that website.
But will it show when she refreshed her screen? See, here's the deal.
Yes.
Oh, it does.
Well, okay, so you're saying she logged into that website before she entered the classroom?
No, she enters the classroom. She logs on the website.
Yeah, it'll show that moment. Now, so he needs, it's more than just being there. He needs to verify that she refreshed her screen at that particular time?
Well, see, that's the only way I can distinguish her actions from the kids sipping their coffee in their kitchens. What they can do is they'll see a blank screen, but they'll have to keep refreshing their computers like every 2 minutes because they have no idea when the professor...
Depends what you mean by a refresh. If you mean she hit F5 and refreshed the browser, it will record that.
I think that's what she means.
Yeah. She needs to, though, do this quickly because history doesn't last forever. It depends on how the setting, but typically just a few months. How long ago was this?
February 4.
Yeah, she'd be all right.
Okay.
But she has to do it now. So tell her to look in her browser history and scroll back to that date and time, and there should be an entry there for that website. I can't promise you that this famous school east of the Mississippi will accept this. But boy, that seems like a shame to prevent her from applying to med school for 2 years because of this. Seems dopey.
It's actually kind of tragic. We're trying to take it from a human perspective because if you
she's devastated, I'm sure, and she was there.
Yeah, she was. She was.
I'm sure she's devastated, and really, that seems like a flimsy thread to hang somebody's med school admission on. The fact that they saw the sign-up sheet go by during the quiz seems like a very flimsy thread.
That's right. Plus, he only did it twice during the entire semester, so it's not something you
What a
even think.
dope.
I know.
What a dope. I think you should, well, frankly, I think you could appeal this to a higher authority and
I can't even go there right now. I'm just trying to be real practical.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, tell her, honey, Leo says you can look at your browser history and there should be an entry there at that date and time saying you were on that website. Whether the professor, who sounds like a real martinet, whether he'll accept it or not is another matter. He's not bound to.
So even when she refreshes it, it'll show when she refreshed it because she would have only had to refresh her browser like 5 times.
Yes, it should show every time that she refreshed her browser.
Oh, thank
Not
you.
waking up the machine, because the screen goes blank, but actually refreshing the browser page. Yeah, every one of those is logged.
Yeah, well, she would have to. It would have to involve. Actually,
well, I'm not sure I understand how this works, but yes, tell her to look in the history and hope she can find it there. She also should check her Google. Her phone will know she was in the classroom, by the way. You should check your location history. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
It's the next step.
There are other things that are showing she was there. The school itself can verify whether she joined their Wi-Fi. They know.
Absolutely right, because she lives in an apartment off campus.
Right. So you can appeal to the school saying, well, I think she was there. You should have a log of her being on the Wi-Fi at that time.
Thank you. I'm doing all 3 of those things.
And her Google location history, does she have an iPhone? She probably has an iPhone.
She does, and she just found the location history. Somebody just told her a couple days ago.
Yeah, that will show. Depends, whether she's got it on and whether she used maps and stuff.
She did.
Okay.
She does. She has maps, the whole thing.
It should show that she was there. Again, the professor may say, well, I don't care. You didn't sign the sheet.
Yeah.
What a dope.
Yes, he is.
I mean, this sounds punitive in a way that isn't very nice.
She's like such a sweet kid. Of course she is.
Yeah, of course she is. I have a college kid, too. And yeah, this kind of silly, kind of officious bureaucracy is very annoying.
It is. It is.
And there's really no reason for that. He's, but can he tell that she took the quiz?
Well, yeah, but so could a person. Well, the quiz is actually easy to take from a remote location.
Oh.
Everyone knows that the quiz occurs during the first 5 to 10 minutes of a class. So any dope can be sitting at home, log in.
They must have a massive problem with people not attending classes. I don't understand it.
Well, it's so ironic because she actually loves to attend classes.
Yeah.
Method of learning.
Yeah.
So, and if you're sitting in a kitchen, you didn't hear the lecture. You just see the pop up, so you don't even know the answer.
A lot of school. Henry's at CU Boulder, and I think he's in classes that do not require attendance. If you just pass the test, you're good.
Yeah.
But, this school's different, obviously, so.
Well, this professor's different. The school, we've actually had a wonderful...
Oh, it's not the school, it's the professor.
No, it's the professor.
Yeah, you get... I understand that you get these people who are complete jerks. My wife had a professor who said, nobody gets an A in my class. I got to tell you right now. Nobody gets an A, because that would mean you know everything, and you don't.
Exactly.
And she's a straight A. She was a straight A student. She got a C in that class, which was better than anybody else. It would have been an A, but he refused to give A's. It's like, what, these are little power-hungry... Ooh.
I know. I can't even begin to tell you the expletives that have entered my brain, and I just keep trying to control and center
You've talked to the dean at the school and so forth? He must...
She's doing everything.
You don't want to helicopter in, I understand, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get involved, other than the fact that I'm doing the background stuff so that I can direct her and
help her do it.
Try this, try
good.
that.
This is a good learning lesson. Unfortunately, you run into people like this all the time, everywhere. They're just jerky people in the world.
You're right, and I have to remind her of that.
Yeah, and this is preparation for her life. It's a shame if she can't go to med school for 2 years because of a dopey professor. Jeez Louise. Well, I hope you resolve this. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Deborah. I know, it's hard. It's terrible. And this is part of the process for us as parents, right? Because we don't want anything. We don't want our child to suffer.
Well, no, not sit on their hands for 2 years when
That's
they could
terrible.
Be else.
Yeah.
So.
Remind the dean the professor has a clear track record of clerical errors.
They do, yeah, that's right. I mean, who does a sign-in sheet?
Oh, that's dopey. In college, come on, they're grown-ups now. Come on.
That's right. I agree with you.
Come on. And I don't know how they would keep you from taking the MCATs anyway.
Oh, no, it's not that she's already taken the MCATs.
Oh.
It's that it's hard enough to get into med school, and this mark would appear on her record for a full 2 years. And since you apply 1 year in advance, she literally would have to wait 3 years before she could. Yeah, it is.
Crazy. What a system. Good luck, Deborah.
Oh, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Another half hour to go on the Tech Guy Show. We solve all sorts of problems, don't we? Rob on the line from Santa Monica. Hi, Rob.
Yeah, are you there?
I am here. Are you there?
I am. I am so glad to talk to you finally. I have a very simple question for you.
Okay.
I am buying an iPhone tomorrow. I live in Los Angeles. I am in between Los Angeles and Santa Monica. Who is the best service provider for that iPhone?
That I can't tell you, but I can tell you a number of places you can go to find out. I mean, I think in general, because you're in a nice big metro, you're not going to have trouble with anybody. So you could probably pick any carrier you like. Let me ask the chat room, anybody in the is it mostly Santa Monica or is it LA Metro? Is it all of LA or just Santa Monica area?
I would say LA County because I work in downtown LA. I work in Torrance. I live in Los Angeles, not far from Culver City. Yeah. I spend a lot of time in Santa Monica. I get around.
So there are third parties that do measurements. Open Signal is the best known. Do not trust the coverage maps from the carriers. They are optimistic. That would be one way to put it. They're optimistic. I think Verizon and AT&T are both excellent in LA County. I know they are. I live in Northern California, so I don't have direct experience. But if you go to opensignal.com, you can enter your location and pick a network, and it will show you. I think they do independent measurements. The only caveat I have with OpenSignal is that the carriers occasionally hire them for advertising and things like that. You'll see, Verizon saying, according to OpenSignal. So it makes me a little. I don't have any reason to suspect that they're not doing a good job. One of the ways that OpenSignal gets good results is they have apps on iPhone and Android that people use, and the app can then measure the signal. Chat room's telling me, CR1 says T-Mobile's good in LA, Orange, and San Diego, not inland. Vic is saying AT&T and Verizon are the best. Sprint and T-Mobile work, but there are dead pockets. That's true in general of Sprint and T-Mobile is in metro areas, both do well, and high population density areas. As soon as you get out of town, they fall off. That's really the test. And almost anywhere you go in L.A. County, everybody's going to be fine. It's as you travel inland or you travel north, as you get away from the city, you're going to get some drop-off from some of them. But pretty much everybody in the chat room, and we have a lot of people in the Southland, say AT&T and Verizon are your best bets. And again, opensignal.com. Lisa in Bellflower, California. Hi, Lisa. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. My iPhone 6 doesn't work. All I get is the Apple logo and sometimes a bright red screen. The repair guy says it's probably the motherboard. I've already ordered the replacement phone through my insurance. What I'd like to know is, can I get my data out, my contacts, my notes, and so forth, and preferably get these out so I can use them and also not have them fall into the wrong hands when I my phone back.
Probably, your phone is what we call, the technical term for your phone is it's a brick. It's dead. And your repair guy could be right that it's the logic board, but it could be other things as well. The problem is if it is the logic board, there's no way to get your data off that phone. It's not like there's a hard drive. You can open up the phone, take the hard drive out, and put it in another phone. It's pretty much dead and gone. That's why Apple strongly encourages you to use iCloud and back up your data. If you were using iCloud for your calendars, your email, or anything else, there'll be copies there. And the minute you log into your new phone on your iCloud account, it will immediately have all your contacts and your calendar and all that stuff. That's the default. So it's I would bet you've got all that stuff, even if you didn't explicitly back it up. Music, photos, that's a different matter. Those take more space, and so Apple requires you to turn on the backup if you're going to use it for that. But most of your data will still be there, and if you were using iCloud, you're fine. If you ever connected that phone to a computer using a USB cable, it would have backed up in iTunes. So you probably, and that backs up everything, by the way. So check and see if you've ever connected it to your Mac or a PC and you have iTunes running. Check and see if you have a backup. You can see which backups are in iTunes. There's even wireless backup to your computer, which the phone may have been set up to do. The phone itself is not going to yield its secrets. It's gone. But one hopes you've got a backup. This is why we talk about backups so much. Hope you have a backup. By default, when you get an iPhone, iCloud backup is turned on for the address book, for contacts, for your calendar, for your settings, for a lot of things. So I think I'm crossing my fingers. I think you probably got everything. Your notes. Sock is on the line from East Point, Florida. Hi, Sock.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm kind of a nerd in the way of the computers and stuff. But what I've been doing is I have maybe a 10 years old Acer Windows 7 computer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm using it solely as a server. So I'm putting all my pictures and stuff through a card into it, and I got prose and poetry in there and lots of music, but it's never connected to the internet, so I think it's safe. But so once in a while, something comes up. You better get on board or whatever, So, yeah, it seems to be okay.
So you're using it as a backup drive, basically.
Right, yeah, it's like my own server.
Okay. It's not a server unless it's connected to the network, though.
No, it's okay.
So it's just a backup drive.
It's a backup.
A server implies that you can access it.
Thumb drive.
Yeah, it's a big thumb drive. That's what it is. Yeah.
Right. So I just was wondering, you think there's at some point where it's going to just go?
Yes.
Like you anymore?
I can promise you it's going to do that. It may be 100 years from now.
Yeah, but it's not connected to the internet.
Well, it's not the internet that's doing that. It's just age.
Okay, well, yeah, no, I understand that part.
At some point, it's going to die just from old age.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's already 10 years old. That's about 150 years old in computer time. So,
well, yeah.
What'll die is the hard drive. Moving parts die. Yeah.
It's a spinning drive.
Yeah, the spinning drive is what will die, and that's where all your stuff is.
I understand, but it's got like maybe I maybe had like 16,000 photos, no problem.
Well, here's I would not ever trust a single source for a backup. You need 2 at least, preferably 3. So you might, when you got a moment, get an external drive and just copy what's on the computer onto the external drive. Now you've got 3 copies: the original, your computer, and a backup drive. And the best thing to do would be to take one of those things off-site. Take that external hard drive and bring it to work. That way, if you had your house burned down, you still have a copy at work.
Well, it'd be my trailer in this part.
Yeah, trailer's good too.
Give me an idea on that external drive.
Oh, you can go. The good news is they're cheap. You go to any big box store and you get a external USB drive that's 10 times bigger than that computer because it's an old computer.
Right.
For $50. Western Digital is fine. That's the most common brand name.
All right.
Get a MyBook.
The last thing I wanted to ask you is my main computer is a old Chromebook too. It's not that old. It's like maybe 4 years or something.
Okay.
It's great. It does just like you were talking about. It's
good. Yeah.
For internet, sending around photos, pros and stuff like that, and basically internet.
What's your question? Because the clock is ticking. I'm
just saying. It would be.
I'm out of time. I'm sorry. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hold on. All right, we're now in the commercial break. I can finish up with you. What was it? What was it? The commercial breaks, unfortunately, because they're network, I don't get to move them. So what was the question? Okay. Michael Cozy, our musical director. Thank you, Michael. Kim Schaffer answering the phones. Thank you, Kim. And thanks to all of you for joining me this week on the Tech Guy Show. All our callers, all our listeners. We couldn't do it without you. Nathan in Utah is next. Hello, Nathan. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.
Hey there, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just wondering where all the AirPods are.
Yeah, where have all the AirPods gone? I have a pair, and I like them a lot. But Apple has not been able to crank them out, have they? We still don't know. Remember, they were delayed a few months for manufacturing issues, which Apple never was specific about. And even now, they're hard to find. The trick,
well, unless you want to pay $300 for them.
Yeah, and I don't think they're that good. There are plenty of other companies, including Apple's own Beats, that are making good Bluetooth headsets. Beats makes now a headphone they just came out with using that W1 chip. That's the key on the AirPods. Because Apple apparently has improved the Bluetooth pairing process. I have to say it's much easier with the AirPods, and that's all down to this W1 chip. They also, I think, sound better than most Bluetooth headphones. That may also be the W1. But you can get a pair of Beats headphones. They're not quite like the AirPods. They're in-ear battery, but they have a cord between them, which I think in some ways is better. You're less likely to lose them that way.
Right. Yeah, I tried the Beats, and I didn't like the in-ear. I like the earbud style.
Yep. Well, the trick with Apple in general is that they ship more out all the time. And so what you want to do is go to an Apple store and ask them, when do you get your AirPods shipment? If you get a nice clerk, they'll say, oh, yeah, we get new shipments check in at noon, every Thursday and Wednesday or something. You want to find out, and then you be there when they come in, and you can get them. Because I've actually done that with a pencil. For a long time, the pencil for the iPad Pro was in short supply. The trick was to go to the store right when they get their shipment. They put them on the counter or on the shelf, and you grab it. And then somebody else grabs the other one, and then they're gone. They get 2 or 3. There is a website that claims that they can do this for not just the AirPods, but everything, isinstock.com. They keep sending me emails saying, tell your listeners about isinstock.com. I don't know if they're calling the stores or how they're knowing, but you can get text notifications. They're in. Problem is, something like the AirPods, that's too late. because you have to then go drive to the store, and by then it's going to be gone. Because anybody who's standing in an Apple store when they put those things on the shelf is going to grab it. So you got to really find out when they come, when they get their deliveries in the store. The other thing that sometimes is a good trick is to go to Best Buy or Target, somebody that also sells these, ask them when they get their shipments. There also, the chat room's telling me, is a Reddit. Reddit has a subreddit where people are posting this information. It's /r/AirPods. So there's an AirPods subreddit. Let's see. Here's the stock history for the last 11 days on AirPods. Wow, it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Yeah, I guess Apple's having trouble making them. You cannot. It looks like there's never much online stock. That almost always you've got to find a retail store, and you got to get them right when the shipment comes in. So yeah, if you don't like the Beats X, and you're right, they kind of stick in your ear more, don't they, than the AirPods? I like the AirPods. I've been very happy with them. Some people are saying go to a cell phone store too. The cell phone carriers who sell iPhones also may have AirPods. These are places people are less likely to check.
Okay.
All right. Just some tips.
All right. Well,
yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
I hope they're worth. I hope they're worth it. I use them. I know you look kind of dorky with these things hanging out of your ears, but it's really nice not to have any wires at all. I like to make phone calls with them, and apparently they sound good. I think it's a good product. Lucille in Chicago. Hi, Lucille. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I just had a quick question.
Yeah.
I wondered what your thoughts were. Looking back in the last couple of weeks, it was pretty humorous when Kellyanne Conway remarked about, our microwave spying on us. And
yes.
I know there's a bill. And
I want to defend her. I want to defend her just because, I talk to a lot of people who aren't super sophisticated about technology. I don't think she meant your microwave oven. But she has the feeling that a lot of people have that a lot of our devices might be used to spy on us. And after we read about the CIA using your TV and stuff, it's true that, anything that connects to the internet could, I guess, in theory, be spying on you. Probably not your microwave oven.
Well, that's good to know. What are your thoughts on this bill that's sitting in Congress that's about to be passed that allows Congress or allows the government to look at our search history? And
yeah. So it's not the government. It's not quite like that. This is what by the way, it was passed in Congress. Both the House and the Senate passed it basically along party lines. Republicans like it. Democrats did not. It will go to the president, who has already said he'll sign it. And what this did is overturn an FCC regulation of late last year that said internet service providers may not sell their customers' history to the highest bidder, to marketers, without permission. Now,
they don't make that very clear in the.
I know. Well, the law is worse than that because it says more than that. Not only overturns that regulation, but says, and henceforth, the FCC shall no longer make any regulations with regard to this. And President Trump has also said, and Congress, I think, will do this, they want to overturn net neutrality. Basically, the party in power right now, whether you're Democrat or Republican, I'm not going to be partisan about this, but the party in power right now believes firmly there should be no government regulation, particularly of the internet. I'm not completely against that idea, but I have to say I don't like saying to Verizon, which has a terrible track record in this, or Comcast, which has a terrible track record in this, go ahead, do whatever you want with your customers' information. Sell it away. Their point was, hey, Google and Facebook do. So why should the internet service providers not be allowed to? And I do want to point out, it's not set your hair on fire time, because this wasn't prevented until just October of last year. So this is not something we've had protections against for very long anyway.
So do we need to be worried?
Well, they can't reach into your computer and get your browser history. But I've always said this. People have called in and said, oh, how can you trust Google? Your internet service provider knows most of what you do on the internet. They have records of where you go. Now they can sell it to a marketer. They don't know what you're searching for because Google encrypts that, and more sites like Facebook and Google are responding, and this is a good response, by encrypting your traffic on the internet so no one can see it, including your ISP. So I think that's the good news. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, it's just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows on the Netcast network. It's called TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security and Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. You even get your daily dose of tech news with Tech News Today. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Well, and Republicans, including Ajit Pai, the new chairman of the FCC, say, oh, this shouldn't be the FCC, this should be the Commerce Department. I think that's disingenuous. And the reason, I mean, I understand maybe philosophically, it should be the Commerce Department, because the FCC doesn't have an enforcement arm, Commerce does. But FTC regulates so much, it would be very low. I mean, they're busy trying to keep people from claiming, you know, that their diet supplement will grow hair and make you lose weight. I mean, the FTC has a lot to do, and I don't think you can count on the FTC to enforce this. However, it's not an unreasonable thing to say this shouldn't be the FCC, it should be the FTC. But regardless, this is like, you know, a lot of other things. You don't throw out the rule until you replace it. And in this case, they've thrown it out with no replacement. So at this point, Verizon and Comcast and everybody else can sell your data to anybody they want to the highest bidder. The data they have is what you do on the internet, what sites you visit. But the data they do not have is stuff that's encrypted. So when you go to Facebook or you do a Google search, your internet service provider knows you're on Facebook. They know you're on Google.com, but they don't know what you're saying because that's encrypted. They don't know what you say to your bank or Amazon. That's encrypted. They only can see the sites you go to. So it's not that part I'm not too worried about. It's not any different than it was until recently anyway. What I'm more worried about is it now gives them approval, in effect. The FCC fined Verizon a couple of years ago for the super cookie. Remember the super cookie they were putting on phones? We talked a lot about it. It was very insulting because you couldn't even disable it. They put a unique identifier. Everybody was using a Verizon phone. Anytime you went anywhere on the internet, you were uniquely identified. And then Verizon went to sites and said, if you'd like to know what this unique identifier, who this belongs to, we'll sell that to you. So, but once people figured this out, and by the way, it took smart tech people watching the traffic to figure out there's something being sent to every site you visit on your Verizon phone. Once they figured it out, there was a hue and cry. The FCC fined them $1 million some and got them to stop. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. Basically, Verizon's been told, hey, you know that super cookie thing? Go ahead and do that. You know, Nebuad and Form, P-H-O-R-M, those were the technologies that, I think, was it Comcast or Cox, Charter? One of the cable companies was using to inject ads into your search results and your browsing. Go ahead and do that. So basically, they've been given permission. We're not going to regulate that anymore. The thing that seems shameful to me is that Congress has sold consumers down the river. They don't care about consumers. They care about the telecoms that contribute to their campaigns. The telecommunications industry is the #1, spends more dollars than any other industry on Congress. And this is the payoff. And it just shows that Congress couldn't care less about consumers.